everyone, today we are going to take a look at music from Ireland. As we learned last time, this is just going to be a very brief look, and there are a lot of things that we have to leave out, but just to show you some things that you may not have seen before, and just to give you a little bit of an idea of some different types of music from Ireland. So last lesson we were in Africa, right here. In Africa, as we discussed, is a continent which has countries within it. Ireland is a country. So if you look up here, it's much, much smaller. It's this little tiny island right here. And so I'm going to give you a zoomed in version here. So you may be familiar with some of the surrounding countries around it. England, Scotland. Here's France down here. So if you think, let me go back to the main portion of Europe here. Here's France. And then Ireland and England and Scotland, they're all off as islands over here. So Ireland is right here, a lot smaller of an area than we looked at last time, but still some awesome music. So we'll start by taking a look at some of the traditional music. Okay. There are a lot of different types of songs that you might hear in Irish music. Ballads, laments, drinking songs. You may have heard some of these terms before. And there's also a lot of different types of dance music. And again, you may have heard some of these words before too: reels, jigs, hornpipes. So they've named a lot of their different tunes. And you'll get a chance to hear some of these as we take a look at some listening examples later. But one thing to note, one interesting thing about the traditional music is that it uses some instruments that you probably are familiar with, and then others that you might not be as familiar with. So I listed a lot of the really popular instruments that you might see in traditional Irish music: violin, flute or tin whistle, harp, accordion, banjo, mandolin, guitar, and then this one here. I know it keeps getting covered up by the bar down here, so I'll move my mouse over, but that's pronounced bodhrán. Bodhrán. And we'll talk about what that is in a second. So from that list, I picked out the three instruments that you might not be as familiar with to take a listen to. So the first is the tin whistle. So sometimes you'll see a traditional flute that you're familiar with that you may see in the band that you hold off to the side like this. A tin whistle is a little bit different, and it almost resembles a recorder, which you all should be familiar with too. So there's an example here to take a listen to. By the way, remember this slide presentation is available in the Google Classroom. So I want you to go open that up so that you can watch these videos as we go along. Then down here is a video of a mandolin, and a mandolin is sort of like a hybrid between a violin and a guitar. So you play it, you hold it and strum it like a guitar, and it has frets like a guitar, but it has the same strings as a violin, so the notes that it's playing are very similar to a violin. So take a listen to this mandolin tune, which is really enjoyable. I like this a lot. And lastly, this bodhrán, which I said was probably the most unique instrument to Irish music. And it's a type of drum, and it might remind you of hand drums that you have played in music class before. But the thing that makes this really unique is the drumstick that the player uses. So you actually use both sides of the stick to hit the drum with. They also will hit the edge of the drum to get a sound. So take a listen to that video. That one is pretty neat. I think that's my favorite of the three. So right now, take a second to pause and listen to these three instrument examples. All right, now I have two examples of ensembles playing together. So you just heard some individual instruments. These are groups playing together. So the first one we're going to listen to is a very traditional group of Irish musicians. They're playing a medley of three different tunes. It's really beautiful. I like that you get to hear the harp right off the bat. Some of you may have never heard a harp before, and so this is a really great opportunity to hear that. You can see that she does have a tradition or a flute that you probably would think of when you hear the word flute. And then we had the bodhrán, over here, a guitar, and a violin. So we're going to take a listen to that. And then over here is another group. This group is actually from Canada, but they play traditional Irish music, but with a modern twist to it. So they are playing the traditional like violins and other instruments, but they've also added a drum set, electric bass, electric guitar, and so you can kind of see how uh, the oops, let me go back. Sorry about that. You can see the similarities between the two videos, but the one on the right has a more modern twist to it. So again, pause the video and go ahead and watch those examples. All right, next we're going to take a look at popular music in Ireland. And the first thing to note is that many musicians in the US, many popular musicians in the US are from Ireland. So you might recognize some of these names: U2, Enya, the Cranberries. If you don't know who they are, your parents probably do. And so these are musicians or bands that are from Ireland, but were very famous here in the United States too. And I have a video here um, of a song by Enya. You might think that you don't know it, but I can guarantee once you click play on the video, you'll say, "Oh, it's that song," because this song is very popular in a lot of memes. So this is a song that I can guarantee most middle schoolers are familiar with. And then on the flip side, if you click on this link in the Google slide in the slide presentation, this will take you to a website that shows the top 50 singles in Ireland, and you're going to notice right away that a lot of the musicians on their charts are American. And you can actually, and in this particular website, pick a go back a couple of years. Unfortunately, it only goes back to 2017, but you could go back to last year and see what what their top 50 was then. So that might be kind of cool to play around with. And so the question that we should ask ourselves, and I want you to think about this now, because this is in the Google Doc that you have to complete, is why do you think we have more shared artists between Ireland than Africa? So when we looked at the charts in Africa, they were musicians that we had never heard of. We didn't really share very many musicians with Africa, but we share a lot of musicians with Ireland. So I want you to think about why that might be. And I'll give you a hint. Last time, when we looked at music of Africa, I asked you to share some of the similarities and differences between the music. Think about one of the biggest differences that you saw in that music video last week. That probably is a similarity in the music from Ireland. So I want you to think about that. And again, this is in terms of popular music, not the traditional stuff that we just talked about. And lastly, we're going to take a look at an example of Irish step dancing. I have a feeling this is something that most of you are familiar with already. You may have even taken an Irish step dance class at some point. And this video is great because it demonstrates something about Irish step dancing that I really appreciate, which is that the dancing itself is very musical. There's a very large section in the middle of this video where they're dancing without any music, but their feet are creating the music. And when you think about other types of dance, like I was thinking about ballet, you don't hear the steps in ballet. In fact, you don't want to hear the steps in ballet. So that's one thing that makes this a unique style of dance and something that I find very interesting to watch. So you'll get to hear some music that they dance with and then see a little bit of them dancing on their own as well. So go ahead and pause the video and watch this example. So I hope you found all of those listening examples interesting. You can again explore some other Irish music on your own on YouTube. There are a lot of great videos and a lot of different things that we didn't even get a chance to talk about. But your job now is to go to the classroom and complete the Google Doc. And again, if you have any questions, you can shoot me an email.